Good morning, y'all. It is a beautiful day out on Miss Scott's porch. So I'm gonna be out here teaching this lesson today. So today we are going to talk about specific heat. And specific heat is the amount of heat needed to rise the temperature of 1 gram of material by 1 degree Celsius. So the lower the material's specific heat, the more its temperature rises, giving amount of energy is absorbed by a given mass. So if you open your books and you look at page 476, there is a chart there that gives you some specific heats of selected materials. You do not need to memorize those, but it's always a good thing to look at and see. We will be using water a lot in some of these problems just because that's one of the things that we use daily. What I do want you to look at is this formula. So the formula for specific heat is the heat absorbed by material equals the product of the mass and the specific heat and the change in temperature. So when we look at this, Q is going to be heat, and that is going to be in joules. A lot of people last year, I remember, they were confused because they always thought Q was the specific heat. It is not. Q is going to just be heat in joules. Your M is going to be mass, which is going to be in grams. Specific heat is going to be joule per gram per Celsius. And then your change in temperature is always going to be the final temperature minus the initial temperature in Celsius. Remember, we went over what delta meant, and that means change. So delta T is going to be change in temperature. So let's jump into a practice problem. It says an iron skillet has a mass of 500 grams. The specific heat of the iron is 0.449 joules per gram Celsius. How much heat must be absorbed to raise the skillet's temperature by 95 degrees Celsius? So before I show you what we have, pause this and see what do we have. What is going to be our M? What's going to be our C? What's going to be our delta T? So go ahead and you can pause that and try to figure that out. So we know that our formula equals Q equals M times C times delta T. So M, our mass, is going to be the 500 grams. It says an iron skillet has a mass of 500 grams. So there's our mass. Our C, which is going to be specific heat, is given right there. It's 0.449 joules per gram Celsius. And then it says how much heat must be absorbed to raise the skillet temperature by 95 degrees Celsius. Well, it's telling us right there that it's going to change by 95 degrees Celsius. So that's going to be our delta T. So you just plug it all in and you multiply all those numbers and you will get 21,327.5 joules. Because remember, our unit for heat is going to be joules. The next practice problem is going to be how much heat is needed to raise the temperature of 100 grams of water by 85 degrees Celsius. The specific heat of the water is 4.18. So it's asking us how much heat. So we're going to be looking for Q. We know that our mass is going to be 100 grams. Our specific heat is given right there again. It's 4.18. And then our temperature change is going to be 85 degrees Celsius. So right there is going to be your answer. You multiply all those and you're going to get 35,530 joules. Next practice problem. How much heat in a kilojoule is absorbed by 750 gram iron skillet when its temperature rises from 25 degrees Celsius to 125 degrees Celsius? So let's just pause here and look at this problem. Remember, I told you that heat is going to be in joules. Well, this problem wants us to find the joules in kilojoules. So all we have to do is find the heat in joules, and then we can convert it into kilojoules. So we know that our mass is going to be 750 grams. Our change in temperature, we do 125 because that is our final temperature, minus 25, and that is going to give us 100 degrees Celsius. And our specific heat is going to be the same as the first problem because it's iron, and we know if you look at page 476, it shows you that the specific heat of iron is going to be 0.449. So you multiply all those across and you get 33,675 joules. Now we have that answer, but we want the answer in kilojoules. So what we do is divide by 1,000 and you'll get 33.7 kilojoules. All right. Another practice problem. In setting up an aquarium, the heater transfers 1,200 kilojoules of heat to 75,000 grams of water. What is the increase in the water's temperature? So we're looking for what delta T is. We're not looking for what the heat is. We're looking for what delta T is. This means that we have to rearrange our formula. So we know that Q equals M times C times delta T. Well, if we're looking for delta T, we have to get it by itself. And how we do that is we're going to have to divide M times C to both sides. Once we get it to both sides, your formula will now be delta T equals Q divided by M times C. M times C. So 1,200 kilojoules, we have to change that to joules, and you're going to multiply that by 1,000 now, and you can see that you get 1,200,000 joules. So you're going to plug it into the formula, and you get delta T equals 1,200,000 joules divided by our mass times C, and that's 75,000 grams because it shows us that up in the problems, times 4.18 joules per gram Celsius, and your answer should be 3.8 Celsius. What mass of water will change its temperature by 3 Celsius when 525 joules of heat is added to it? So we're looking for the mass. You can see what mass of water will change its temperature. Well, we have Q equals M times C times delta T. Once again, we are not looking for the heat, so we have to rearrange our formula. And our formula is now going to be M equals Q divided by C times delta T, because we have to get M by itself. So all we have to do is divide C times delta T to both sides, and you can see in our formula how we rearrange that. So we just go ahead and plug everything in. We do mass equals the heat, which is 525 joules, divided by the specific heat, which is 4.18 joules per gram Celsius, and then you multiply that by the change of temperature, which is 3 degrees Celsius, and your answer is going to be 41.9 grams. So I'm going to stop there. We're not even getting into the last part of 16.1. What I want you to do is look at these problems. I want you to stop this video. I want you to try these problems on your own. These are pretty simple problems as long as you can understand what Q equals. And we know that Q equals heat. What M equals is the mass. C is going to be specific heat. And then delta T is going to be change in temperature. And remember, how you find delta T is taking the final temperature minus the initial temperature. And sometimes it just tells you exactly what the temperature is going to be when it changes. So please, guys, take your time on this video. I am giving you all day to do this, and then I'm going to give you 4 practice problems that you have to do on Teams. Please do not stress it. If you have a lot of questions, we have a Zoom session coming up on Friday, so do not stress it. Try your hardest to understand these problems. I'm here for you. If you need to email me or if you just want to wait for questions on the Zoom session, that is perfectly fine. Take your time on these problems. Alrighty, guys. Have a great day, and remember, stay calm. We're all going to make it through this. See you guys.